Good morning, Nigeria. It's a brand new day, and you're tuned into Ways Breakfast, the space where youthful voices, bold ideas, and pressing conversations collide. It's a beautiful Wednesday, and we're here to stir up your morning with energy, insight, and all the stories that matter to young Nigerians navigating this ever-changing world. I am your host for today, Oluchi Precious Omink. Of course, I'll be sharing the table with God's Beauty Israel. And as always, we're here not just to talk, but think, laugh, question, and grow together. So grab your tea, tune in, and let's make this morning count. Welcome to Ways Breakfast, where every voice matters. Let's dive in. Good morning, God's Beauty.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm feeling good.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
Good, Alex.
I'm feeling good, just a little bit tired because, I don't know, this weather has a way of, I mean, stretching you beyond your capacity. But I think my, what's it called now? I have the capacity still to battle with it.
Unbreakable.
Yes,
unbreakable.
But honestly, I feel tired. So I learned something recently, God's Beauty, and I was thinking that I'm going to talk about it with you. I want to know if you somehow have found yourself in this position. So there's this thing in psychology where, let me look for the particular name. I think it's called a downward social comparison, where it's almost like you empathize with people that have probably brought out their faults or their imperfection to the limelight. And the reason you're empathizing with them is because you're somehow saying that, oh, maybe mine is not exactly as bad. Do you understand? For example, let's say you probably have financial crisis, and then you heard of someone that you look up to a lot that probably even has worse financial crisis, and somehow you just felt happy empathizing with that person. But if you look inward, it was not exactly because you wanted to actually empathize, because you felt like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one here. So I want to ask, how often do you find yourself in this way? Because it's actually a thing that happens with us humans. What do you think about it?
I think that it's something that is very much relatable, right? I can't remember when last I've been there, but I know for sure that I've been in that situation where I feel like, oh, my own don't finish. Feel like I'm not having any headway.
Yeah.
I'm working and working, but then probably my results or the results are not seen. It's not visible to the eyes of, people that I want them to, see it and all. And then I look at other persons and I'm like, okay, I'm actually not doing bad myself, right? And I think that, in that kind of situation, what I do is remind myself that, oh, you can actually do this, and you can actually do better.
The point is, do you try to find solace and satisfaction because you're seeing somebody else even in a deeper?
I feel like the fact that you see that other people are in deep, issues, it just somehow gives you that peace or that that wake up call that, oh, you're not the only person here. And it's
so I think peace from someone's calamity.
I don't know what it is, but
that's what I've been thinking about. That it's a very funny human way of coping, getting peace from someone's calamity in that sense. And yet we come out to empathize with them. I'm like, you're going through a lot, but somehow I'm like, oh, thank God, mine is not even this worse.
But you actually need other people to actually, either do a wake-up call for yourself or something. You need to hear other people's story to get, I don't know what the right word is, but for you to have that wake-up call that, oh, no, you actually need to do better.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I remember there was a time where someone asked me, what's your deepest fear? My deepest fear is the fact that if I will not be able to provide for my children, then I really don't know what it is I'm actually even doing here. Do you understand? If I'm not going to be able to protect my children, protect people around me, then I don't understand why I'm actually living. I feel like that's part of my purpose in life. Do you understand? So imagine, do you know that I got that idea, or I was able to brace up to that level because I've seen other people in deep problem. And I remember saying yesterday on Gossip Gala that I am actually so mad if I see somebody come, give birth and they're not able to take care of that children. I am very pained when I see children on the streets hawking. I really don't know what gets me angry than that. I don't want to stretch this a lot because we have other things to discuss. But what I got from, my thought process yesterday with this particular conversation or this highlight is that there's two kinds of comparison. There's the upward and the downward comparison, and both of them are wrong in that sense. Honestly, that's the conclusion I came up with. There's a comparison where we only focus on, oh, don't compare your chapter 1 with someone's chapter 20, be calm and all, but also don't compare yourself with somebody that is still trying to struggle. I don't think it's the right way things are to be done. I don't see it as comparison, actually.
It's actually comparison. That's what psychology calls it, downward comparison. Yeah. somehow to get some peace and feel like, oh, your own life is better or put together. But one of these days, we'll open up this conversation, better. Thank you to our viewers for joining us. Today's conversation is quite loaded. We're talking about the newest varsity scores from UTME. We started it yesterday with our headline stories, and today we're going to be opening it up even much more. So please stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break. All right, welcome back, our viewers. What are your thoughts on these historical milestones? I'd love to hear your perspective and your insight as well. Remember, you are always the main ingredient in our conversation. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Our phone lines are open. Please call us on 0702500779 or 0701424240. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, head on now to the official Upgrade TV. Click the subscribe button. Like, share the link, tune into channel 145 on your Go TV, and don't miss out on all of everything that we have packed for you. So this morning we're examining 3 papers: the Punch, the Guardian, and the South China Morning Post, as God's beauty would always say.
Oh my God.
So let's start with the South China Morning Post.
Straight in. By the top left, we have there, it's a sink or swim moment. Mid-top, we have consumer prices up on the mainland. Then top left, top right rather, MPF tax break plan in doubt. Beneath that, we have export ban sends warning to Taiwan separatist forces. Main headline, right? We have rail projects to cost 30% less using mainland standard. Then the bottom of the newspaper, which is the last headline, on the newspaper I have suspension and pay cuts proposed in bill on lawmakers' conduct. And that's the headline I'm actually interested in. Quick dive into the details, and it says Hong Kong authorities have introduced a bill to the legislature that will pave the way for establishing an expanded mechanism under the lawmakers under which lawmakers could face suspension and pay cuts for misconduct. Now, the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Amendment bill was presented by Chief Secretary Eric for its first reading on Wednesday. Now, the bill aims to expand the scope of financial penalties to cover situations in which lawmakers have been suspended for violating the proposed codes for members. Now, the legislature is expected to approve the amendment by July 23 at the earliest. I can't wait to see what the update is on that. Then the government welcomes the Legislative Council's effort in strengthening its self-supervision and self-improvement with higher standards, as well as enhancing its operational transparency. Now, the new rules also answer the public expectation for lawmakers. All of these things have been said by the Chief Secretary, Eric. Now, one thing I love about, this people is the fact that they actually go for transparency. Now, I've been speaking English since. Let me give you guys what exactly it is. So the Hong Kong, some of the legislature there, right, they came together and they say that, we're the ones always making law for other things. How about we also make a law to actually check us, right? And that's where transparency comes in. So for some of those lawmakers that don't do their job right, but some of those lawmakers that can be found with misconduct and all, instead of we just suspending them, they're thinking of adding some penalties, financial penalties to it now. And just like I read here, it was the bill that was passed on Wednesday, right? That was yesterday. So I can't wait to see what the update is you know, since they are thinking of, you know, according to, you know, the report, the amendments will be approved by July 23, in about 2 weeks from now, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what the update is. I don't think we've heard this kind of news here in Nigeria, where a particular sector is actually putting in laws that would, you know, checkmate themselves from literally ensuring that they're actually doing the right things. Do you get?
Yeah.
You can only, I'm so sorry, guys, but you can only find it outside the country. Like,
well,
you know, like
differ.
China. Well, yeah, that's all I have for you. Now, since you're begging to differ, tell me what it is. Bring the evidence.
There are definitely some parastatals here that, of course, would checkmate them. So I think we have all those systems running.
Exactly. But we don't see it active. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
So you know.
Maybe we don't see it as active as we should, but I'm sure we have those systems running here. The papers this morning have a lot of amazing stories, honestly. I can't almost just restrict myself to one, but because of time, let me take you through the ones that, you know, should be on our lips. Let's start with the Punch. The major headline says diplomatic tensions. Federal government pushes back as US UAE tightens visa rules. Ministry begins high-stakes negotiation as officials fault US over reciprocity claim. All right, below that, we see U.S. meeting. African leaders seek Trump support to develop resources. Tinubu government seeking excuse to clamp down on coalition, says ADC. Local government poll. Police restrict movement in Lagos, deploy squads. IMF pledges support for FIRS on tax reforms. Okay, so let me take you through the one that has to do with this particular diplomatic tension that has been going on. So I was at an event yesterday, and then, you know, one of the speakers mentioned that how many of you here are presently aware of, you know, the ban and the whole questions on, you know, the visa restrictions and everything. And I was like, oh, really? Are we still revisiting this topic again? I thought we had somehow moved over that. And I think what he stated yesterday, though I haven't gotten like the full information on that, is that I think once in 3 months is when certain Nigerians can now travel, or many Nigerians. One thing was key with what he stated, and he said that, see, this is not the time for you to start lamenting and being like, why don't they want us to travel? You know, Nigerians can come out with that cry. So this is time to start making your hometown, in that sense, your country, become beautiful enough for even these foreigners to want to come here, because for a very, very long time we've been so dependent. I know there's always this how would I put it now, international relations between countries and people. It's human for people to migrate, it's human for people to move from one place to the other, but it seems as though we've had more dependency from us to them, right? And I know that, oh, this is bigger than that, because some people have legit things they do, probably for work, you know, family. And, you know, people marry, there's this thing where people marry other persons from other countries and everything. But I listened to what he said. I'm like, okay, this is really a call up for us, because sometimes we always like, I don't know how to put it, we feel frustrated by some measures. But you know what they tell us? There's this particular proverb I'm trying to remember, that it's darkest before dawn. Do you understand? Like when things seem to be at the worst in your own understanding is when there's actually a breakthrough, if you are able to fight through that moment. So I'm just coming from the positive side to say that it might be a long shot, but what if we start even making our country that's interesting? Do you understand? That's appealing for these foreigners to even want to come. I don't think there's such ban for the United States or countries like Dubai. People, who wants to ban them in that sense? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because they are A-lists. They are like, oh, people want to be there. In fact, you are the one that want to come here. So I just look at everything. I'm like, oh, maybe when we get to that point, news like this won't even bother us, because we know that they also are depending on us. Federal government has expressed, just taking you through the story, concern over the recent decision by the United States to impose tighter visa restrictions on Nigerian citizens, describing the move as disproportionate, calling for reconsideration in the spirit of mutual respect and cooperation. And this comes just as the UAE, that's the United Arab Emirates, imposed tougher entry conditions for Nigerian travelers, banning transit visas application entirely. There's a whole lot of details, but I'll spare you all the stories, but you can check it on the Punch. So the federal government, I think they're what do I call it now? Their response, yes, that's a better word, to this particular stuff is giving please now, don't do this to us. That's the vibe it's giving me. Yeah, I understand the whole spirit of mutual respect and cooperation.
Yeah.
We are one big family. Everybody should, you know, have that unison and all. But SARS, in the different quarters and industry, please, we should go beyond this begging. And maybe this is now also a cue for us as tourists, as travelers, as people who visit this country. We don't want to use the word lightly, mess things up for ourselves, and then we now even spoil the path or the way for others that want to come through.
Yeah.
We've had stories here of some really terrible behaviors from tourists that visit other countries, and some of these ripple effects is already coming, you know, to full display. So yeah, that's the news I have for you on The Punch. And moving over to the Guardian newspaper, the major headline says 2 years later, international travel restrictions spark fresh row, absence of ambassadors. Mutual funds rise by 105% to 5.9 trillion naira in HI on higher demands yields. Jackpot. Canada raises minimum proof of funds to 17 million naira per immigrant. It just keeps getting worse. Niger attack claims 13 as 20 bandits die in Kwara. Again, 20 gunmen raid Agwata local council, kill 4. Delegates will decide who gets ADC's presidential ticket, says Atiku's spokesperson. UAE bans transit visas, impose stricter entry rules for Nigerians. Sad. 2027, don't underrate Tinubu. Ribadu wants opposition. And the last story says EFCC decries mind-blogging fraud at NNPCL, want unexplained wealth criminalized. Very interesting. I think the other story I wanted to talk about is the one that even talks about these foreigners themselves. For a long time, I mean, I just even said a few minutes ago, our tourist behavior. I know you might want to say that, why does a girl think that all Nigerians are bad? But there's been this recent news where, how would I call it now? Certain individuals, especially foreigners, Chinese people, have been involved in some indespicable acts, if I would say. Yeah. So there's this particular one. It says operatives of the Kaduna Zonal Directorate of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, have arrested 9 suspected illegal miners in Niger State. They were apprehended in Kaniyan Village, Mokwa, local council of Niger State, following actionable intelligence on their illegal mining activities. And this suspect comprises 5 Chinese nationals and 4 Nigerians. The Chinese suspects are Wu Ping, Zhong Xianling, Zhong Aming, Zhu Chio, and Liu Changwa. If you did get that, thank you so much. While the Nigerians are Ibrahim, Abdullahi, Sunday, Oladele, Destiny John, and Bolo Samuel. But the reason why I took this particular story is let us see that sometimes bad behavior does not look at color in that sense, right? It's the persons that choose to be that way. And anytime you read the South Morning China Post or even the New York Times, I see the bias in how they paint themselves really good. That's why you can always come out here to say, oh, I love China, I love China. It's because they've given you good stories in that sense, right? But the Nigerian papers, of course, is giving us an unbiased story, everything that's happening, the good, the bad, the ugly. But it's also good to see that some of these countries and some of these people that we over-glorify, they also are contributing to these faults and the problems that we have here. Yeah, because I've been seeing this story reoccurring. I always just keep it that maybe no proper context, but it's been reoccurring. You hear that some illegal mining happening somewhere, 5 Chinese, 10 Indians, 3 Congolese, in that sense. So it's like, oh, it's not just Nigerians. Of course, you might want to say that, it's not Nigerians that probably brought them into this, but it still shows that, if we had a country in that sense that do not tolerate things like this, maybe they will not even feel comfortable wanting to do stuff like this over here. But eventually, that's the story I have. But to end on a good note, I have good news for you from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. They have lauded the Federal Inland Revenue Service, that's FIRS, for what it described as significant progress in delivering on its core mandates, especially amid sweeping tax reforms aimed at boosting Nigeria's domestic revenue. So they said that they recognize the very good work that FIRS have been providing to the citizens, that this new law, we've been talking about the tax reforms recently, is going to bring new responsibilities, and they also want to know how best they can support with this particular challenge. And it's amazing to get international bodies commend or applaud some of the reforms that we have ongoing. But the only problem I have with this is that it's too far. I mean, January is a very long time for this to kickstart. I don't know why it had to stretch that long. Maybe because there's going to be change of, there's going to be a lot of change internally first from the name and everything. Yeah. So maybe to get things running smoothly, it has that long process. But I'm hoping by January, all this excitement that we have is going to be materialized in that sense. It's not going to be swept down the drain. And it's a good one. It's applaudable. And let's see how well this will benefit Nigerians, small and medium scale businesses and everyone together. Yeah, that's all the story I have. Do you have any comments on any of them?
Not at all.
Not at all? Not even the travel one? Weren't you planning to travel soon?
I see it. The thing is, just like you said about the whole Chinese thing, the fact that we ourselves, we actually do all of these things. I mean, just mentioning there are 4 persons, 4 Nigerians, and 4, Chinese. 4
Nigerians, 5 Chinese.
Oh, 5. So you see now that, I mean, there's no how you want to tell me. You see those 4 people are literally part of the issue. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Imagine each and every one of us are, striving to get better. We are, looking after our neighbor. Those kind of things will not happen. But because we ourselves, you define money any which way. And that's one of the reasons. So when one international person comes and say, oh, I have this business, first off, now the business will make sense. Dollars.
True.
Do you understand? So before you know, we start involving ourselves in all of these things. I mean, how about the stories that do not make the papers? These are just the ones that make the papers, the ones that doesn't. So there are a lot of these things that happen. It has to start with each and every one of us until we start deciding that we'll start looking after our brothers. Yeah. These things will continue to happen. So I
like the point where you mentioned that because, you see a white person, oh, now Igbo, in idea go make sense. Things are going to work. Because we've somehow, even today, using those verbiage like Oyibo, white people, there's a way we feel like, oh, they're somehow better than us. And that's why sometimes you can permit certain things. And I'm glad I highlighted that story because it's been happening a whole lot with the headlines. And the fact that I always keep it, like, oh, it just happened. But I think it's something to call out so that these international bodies can know that, yes, we have our fault, but we don't want you adding to the fault that we already have.
Exactly.
All right, this is where we wrap up the stories for today. If any of them catches your interest, of course, head on to our YouTube channel, comment, or you can call us as well. I'd like to hear your beautiful voice this beautiful Wednesday morning, right? All right, to take a short break now. When we return, we're looking at the hot topic for today. We want to evaluate this new reform that UTME has for universities and polytechnics, of course. And if it comes to education, my blood is always hot. So if you want to see that, come back with us after this short break.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines. the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
All right, welcome back. Today's conversation is on the new minimum UTME score for Varsities. A major wave just hit Nigeria's educational sector, and it's one many are still trying to process, inclusive of God's beauty and I. The Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has just released new guidelines for tertiary admissions, and this time it's setting firmer boundaries. Starting from the 2025-2026 session, the new minimum score to gain university admission is now 150. Up from 120. Colleges of nursing are pegged at 140, while polytechnics and colleges of education stay at 100. And perhaps most contentious, the federal government has now made it official. You must be at least 16 years old to be considered for admission. Now, while the move is being hailed by some as a step towards academic integrity and quality control, others are calling it a subtle attack on access and autonomy. With top schools like LASU, UNILAG, and UNILORI leading the demand chart and southeastern states topping malpractice lists, sadly, there's a lot to unpack. Is this a wake-up call or just another sweeping reform without consideration for the realities on ground? So today on the show, we're asking, what does this new cutoff really mean for students, schools, and the system at large? Of course, I'll be having this conversation with God's Beauty. So, I think I want to sneeze, but the sneeze didn't come out.
Okay, that's fine.
So going back to this conversation, I mean, the intro already even made me feel like I think I've been a bit lost in the whole educational system. Because I was saying yesterday when I was reading the headlines that the cutoff mark we're used to was 200, right? So I think at a point it maybe dropped to 120 or so, and then it's coming back to 150. How the different droppers happened, I feel like there's a lot of questioning,
yes.
And it's good that different schools, you know, A-list universities in that sense that we have in Nigeria, in the sense that, you know, top federal universities are coming to banter this, because I think that it really needs to be looked into. We've always said that anything called reform, anything that you want to put out for citizens to, you know, be mandated to do, it has to be something that has a balanced, you know, perspective, balanced implication or consequence or even advantage in that sense, so that it's not one party that is benefiting from it and the other isn't.
Not, yeah.
So I think my first jump was in 2017. I think so. Can you remember yours? You can't remember yours. And UTME cutoff for us then was 200. And somehow, let me even give you this story that is going to make you laugh a bit.
Okay.
So my brother, my youngest brother, Chigozie, he used to tell me then that, oh, this cutoff is even very, very small. Out of 400, 200. So when I had 244 in 2017, my immediate younger brother, I think he had maybe something lower. Do you understand? He felt we're dollars.
Okay.
He felt we're dollars. You know what 244 was? I think for my mock it was 260, then the second was 244. It was like, for out of 400. So that means you missed the whole 100 and something. And he felt like, yeah, this thing is not even significant. Whereas that is over the cutoff in some areas. I can get into some schools, get into some courses on merit. Do you understand? But he felt like, oh, that's really ridiculous. Until he wrote his own jam. Oh, yeah. We said, we're waiting for you. When you write that your jam, you can open this your mouth and talk. And I think he had in fact, the lowest.
Oh, my God.
That's why mouth sometimes isn't good.
Right.
But then I think he had to write another one. And that's why he got a good score to study nursing right now in one of the schools in the East. So the point is, I think he had a point. He was talking from pride here. Yeah. But I saw the fact that he was talking from an intelligent point in the sense that let's even consider the basis to which we admit people into the university. Because the university or college, as we call it in some places, is the next entry into the work force into the world of work, as my lecturer then would say. So imagine not pumping the right persons there. I've been in higher institution, and sometimes the people that are there, you're wondering, how did you even get into this place? So what's my own first point? My first point is that 200 just seemed okay, at least 50% minimum to get into school. And we know that when it even gets to the university, they do a lot of, they even increase it because there are people who can get like 300. I heard of stories of people in Unilag that had 320, 330, and they get into medicine and surgery.
You see, exactly what
Do you
I was telling
understand?
you.
So that UTME only is just the baseline for every institution.
Sure, yeah.
Then different schools will not work from that baseline up, but not below. Do you understand? So to me, 200 felt like, oh, it's just perfect. So bringing it to 150 and 100 for polytechnics, I really did not understand it, because I feel like, are you trying? What exactly was the inspiration behind this? Is it because of the recent failure we've had with JAM so far? Are you trying to just make people enter into the universities by all means? So let us reduce it so that it can accommodate more. Is that the point? And if that's the point, it doesn't give room for, I don't know how to explain, for the very best
people having
to
prepare.
be in the institution. And I would say that it can make people to even become quite lackadaisical in that sense. Because do you know what it means to have 100?
To be honest.
I don't think you need to read a lot to have 100.
Yes.
And if you say that's the cutoff, I am not even going to read for my JAMB, right? I'll just know some things, be in class, vibe with friends, and I might have 1 or 2. And I say, she means 100,
That's 100,
and I'm in a polytechnic. No, I don't think that's how the educational system to work. Because I said yesterday, we want to compete on global standards. Let's even compare. I mean, is it not in some schools I've heard in China where their A's start from, I think 85 or so. I'm not sure about this particular number, but it's very tough. In fact, it used to even be worse in some of these schools in Asia. I mean, if you watch some Korean movies, you see it now.
Yes,
a particular child can have, 70, 75, and they're depressed because they felt they failed. In Nigeria, 69, you will be, or 70 on the dot, you are feeling like you are the Albert Einstein in the class. You understand? But because they've set a standard, intelligence is, you have to read the very best. I know there might be a stretch to it, but we have not gotten to that part yet to want to now create a balance. Do you understand what I mean?
Okay.
Let's even get things working properly. Let's chunk in the right kinds of people into the universities. We'll still talk about the age later. But first, looking at the color, before looking at other issues, I felt like this is reducing standards in some sense. What do you think about it?
First of all, like I said yesterday, I actually want to look at it from their own angle. How exactly do you think that, bringing it to 150 or to 100 for polytechnics would actually help the student? Because, I mean, I also heard the part of malpractice and all. Probably they don't want what happened this year to repeat itself. But I still feel like we'll still have things like that. Because people that don't want to learn will not learn. People that don't want to read will not read. People that don't want to prepare will not prepare. So whether you increase the, what's the name now? The certain score or not, people, like I said, people that want to prepare would actually prepare. So I think that I would literally love to hear what their own part is. Like, I am actually curious at this point. For you to take out the score from 200, bringing it down to 150 or 200, I mean, there must be a very good
reduced before that. Then
then I increased it again for the university now,
Yeah.
from 120 to 150. Honestly, I would like to know what it is. Then I think I was telling you earlier that, well, I mean, regardless of what your score is, even if the cutoff mark is 200 and you go beyond that. Now, for universities like LASU, I feel like LASU has a more stricter way of having to bring in people. Because I remember when I wanted to enter, it was really crazy. And I think I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine. If you're not a Lagosian, first of all, you are already exactly. So there's already that part. But then if you use that same score, take it to the north. Sharp, you are in. Do you get? And you know why many people don't want to, of course, go to the north to school? Because of the whole insecurity story that we keep hearing. You get? So that's already like a problem. So I really want to understand why exactly they have to, bring down the cutoff mark, right? And going back to what Okiki said yesterday, probably they're looking at how to, I mean, equality now. Probably they're looking for how to ensure that some students are able to enter. But then, are you saying now that people should enter without having to prepare for it? Do you understand?
What do you think
so
that's
the thing.
into? It's not a playground.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be a ground of more intellectual conversations and drilling. So it's not about just chunking anyone in. And I'm going to go back to medicine and surgery Unilag. Some of the very brightest students. Do you know what it means to have 320, 311, 307, and you're not able to get into study medicine and surgery? Because they're not just looking for good, they're looking for one of the best. Because that's a very delicate cause. Do you understand? So I feel like there's no point with using these standards. But of course, the educators in that sense will always, bring their stronger claims to let you know why this is possible. But looking at that whole equality thing again, I think if I was even going to give a recommendation, maybe this whole minimum score stuff should start having, it should be based on locations. In that sense, because I also thought of it, some students do not have the access, educational access, and educational quality like some of those students. For example, students in the West, let's not even sugarcoat it. We are privileged in Lagos. We are privileged if you're in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, in some of these high-end cities. Do you understand? We're privileged, we have access to, some good teachers, because most of them want to retain this area. That's why it's called the cosmopolitan cities, as we call it, in that sense. But there are some other states, there are some other regions in Nigeria that don't have access to quality teachers, to quality systems in this particular education. So that means you can't even be assured of what they're going to get. And these people still need to get into school. Now, I was thinking that probably we should now have their own benchmark and then have benchmark for the others. But at the end of the day, it's still going to create more problems, because you would be, I don't know how to explain it beyond this, but I don't even think that's the best of solution, because you're creating more problems. Rather, what you should focus on is how to cause equality across board, where the level of the quality of education in a particular place is the same.
Yes.
If I go to a state far in Mina or in Kaduna, in a school rather in those areas, I should be assured of what they are learning. Let it not be that we see people, I mean, we've seen pictures of people learning in environment that you wonder if this is a school. You hear of stories of a particular teacher taking 10 subjects. What exactly is he teaching these people? Sometimes when you hear them speak, the funny thing is sometimes I remember this one where a particular Yoruba teacher was also taking English. Can you imagine that? It makes you laugh. A Yoruba teacher teaching English.
God. What would the diction be?
No, I want you to even imagine with me. You know, technical English is one of the most hardest subjects when you come to WAEC and UTME. The pronunciation, the diction, even the comprehension, the literature part of it. So imagine not having that kind of quality. So it becomes understandable when you want to put 100 for Polytechnic, so that we can just have anybody there. But we'll take a short break now, and when we come back, I want us to look at this recent concerns from JAMB about a foul play in a particular student's result. That's one of the highest scorer. Why did they come up with this certain claim at this point, and what's the implication of this? So please stay with us. I want to hear your comments as well. We'll be right back shortly. All right, welcome back. So we're still talking about this newest, will I call it innovation or reform from the UTME, having to put a new score across different universities. And this has been met with a lot of backlash from some institutions who feel like, no, they don't want to accept this. So let's see how this eventually plays out. I have given my own thoughts about it, that I do not think that the standard of education in our country should keep reducing. Rather, it should keep increasing, because we're pushing people into the world of work, and we want to push the best of the best into that space. But let's talk about this whole foul play stuff. So recently, I think, JAMB came out to say that they suspect foul play, especially with, the highest scorer and everything. And firstly, I'm like, this speaks about the integrity of your system.
To be honest.
Because I don't know, is it that they didn't feel happy
about it?
That somebody had probably a 360. I don't know the exact highest score for JAMB right now. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's not impossible. But if you make a claim like that for a student score, you should give evidence. Because even your system so far, we've had, I mean, isn't the register that was the one that came out to say, oh, there were faults and everything. So we've had faults from your own angle as well, where, some people got the scores that were not deserving. We already know that, so we have gone past it. So coming and say there's a foul play with a particular scorer for JAMB, one of the highest scorer, without evidence, it's not screaming quality in that sense. It's screaming problem from your system. So what do you think about this stuff?
I mean, first off, I thought there used to be like a machine that takes care of the the calculation of each of the scores and all, and then it eventually comes out. So how exactly is just like you said, there's definitely a problem somewhere. And if you're actually suspecting a foul play and all, how about you check it? How exactly did this person score this high? Go back to whatever calculated it to that, to that amount or to that score, and take care of it. The part where you come on, the media space to come and let us know that the highest scorer has something to do with, malpractice and all of that. I don't think it's something that we are supposed to be hearing. I think it's something that you're supposed to take care of and probably give us a result later.
Yes.
You get?
So talking about that malpractice thing, there's another sad story, sad detail. I mean, JAMB recently just came up with different
things.
news, and that's what we're talking about this morning. There's the one where Anambra and Imo, thank God I'm from Abia.
I don't know why they brought Imo State to this.
Thank God I'm from Abia State. I wish Kiki was here. She'd be like, I knew it on my
You knew what?
She said, on my Igbo. Well, that's quite an embarrassing thing. We're laughing about it because I don't know. I like to put humor in everything because I don't want to take things so seriously. But it is still serious. I mean, Anambra and Imo top the list of malpractice center, and I think it's a concern in that sense because why do we keep having things like this? You know what came to my mind? I feel like we're more concerned. We have a system that celebrates results rather than learning.
Yes.
And I realized that from primary, secondary school. There's just this. There was a time. Let me even give you a very personal story. I think I was very competitive. I wanted to be the first in my class. I think it was SS1 or SS2 at that time. And when I look at it in hindsight now, I think I was not even so concerned with learning because I did a number of courses. I was an art student, but I was also doing commercial courses. I think I did geography as well.
Yes, we did geography
as everything. Well. I know we're supposed to have it, separated.
Yes,
but the point is, I had somebody, his name is Itunu. I don't know where Itunu is right now. Itunu was my major competitor, and it was very obvious. So there was this, I'm the one that's going to be first, I'll be first. When result comes out, you are trying to look into, like, what did you get? You know, everybody can relate to this.
Yes.
So it felt beautiful and, just youthful at that point to want to strive for result. But I think there's a thin line between striving for result and actually striving to learn.
Yes.
So that's why sometimes I'm not really much of an educator in that sense, even though I have my first degree there. But I feel like we should be more concerned with people actually learning.
Yeah.
Because if you are more concerned with people learning, the result will not be a problem at the end of the day. But if result is just results, A1, 10 A's, 15 A's, and you're not even concerned about learning, that's when you can have issues like malpractices.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I think we're just in a world where people just want to come back, to their homes and tell their parents that I had this kind of result. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I feel like at this point, we need people to be more concerned with learning. So what do you think parents can do in this sense? I feel like, firstly, parents should really encourage their students. They should get to learn, like discuss with this words of theirs and ask them, what exactly did you learn in school? How do you feel about this particular course of yours? Or discuss it with me. Instead of just saying, oh, what did you score? The person that got...
in get too head.
Exactly.
Those they sleep when they teach on that.
Exactly. I'm hoping that those statements are already changing in our world today. But what do you have to say about it?
I feel like parents are key, actually, in ensuring that their children are enjoying whatever that they learn in school. I remember when I was in secondary school, right? So you see civic education and business studies, yes. I think those are my two subjects that I literally cannot fail. If I don't read, I'm not going to... whether I read or not.
I will quiz you now.
Hey, wait! No, I'm being very honest.
I will quiz you.
5
characteristics of a secretary and receptionist.
These are the issues.
You already blow your trumpet now. I want to quiz you.
I was telling you that, like, those are the subjects that I like very much because then... I mean, my dad, as at that time, was still in school, and he did study law, so it was quite easy. Like, for every time I finish, class and all, and I'm going back home, the first thing is asking me, oh, okay, what did you do in school? So my mom did a bit of secretary, whatever. She did business, shorthand, and all of those typewriting. That's what she did in school, back then, right? So it was easy because anytime I'm home, my dad is the one giving me everything on legislative, everything, and government, civic education is there. It's just giving me human rights and, all of that. Then my mom is the one taking me through business study. Do you get what I'm saying? So it was easy for me to love the subject because I always had people that was teaching me. Even biology back then. I remember osmosis regulation. All of those plenty grammar. I had someone that was that you know was my senior at that time, and he loved biology. He knows how to draw and all. So the skeleton, the liver, the heart, he was just there. You get what I'm saying? And it was easy for me to love all of those subjects because I knew there was somebody to just call. So if I have an issue with government today and they're telling us, oh, what certain arms of government or what is in the constitution, blah, 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 what I just need to do is to go and call my dad. The Papa, please, I really don't know what this thing is. Just put me through. And it does it and it makes it easy for me. So I think that parents has a role to play in, you know, ensuring that their children actually love, you know, love school, love everything that their teachers, you know, teaches them. Now, I mean, you use my younger sister as an example. Back then, when she was still in secondary school, for every time that she has an issue with either essay writing or whatever, she brings it to me. If you're in SS3, I'm not going to be the one to write a WAEC for you. But for every time she has it later, be it from informal, be it semi-formal, whatever they call it, she just brings it on. And yeah. I mean, for me, I have always loved having to write letters and all. It's something I already knew how to do right from when I was, I think, when I was even in junior section and all. So it was easy. But what I'm giving all of these examples, all of these stories, is to say that parents or, you know, guidance actually has a very good role or a big role to play in the life of their children. I
thought about something very, very hilarious right now. So when you mentioned formal letter, informal letter, I'm trying to remember some of the things we did in school that somehow felt very irrelevant. So recently, I saw one particular post that said, I'm still trying to figure out in this my adult life how that sokatwa.
Bless.
4-figure table I learned in secondary school is added to my life right now. And I thought about it. I think one of the subjects I struggled with a lot in school has to be maths. I don't know why God didn't give me the brain for maths.
I feel like it depends on the topic on that maths. There are some topic in the maths that I really love. Statistics, probability. You see that bar, and what do they call it? Bar charts, pie charts, histogram, pictogram. You see how I'm calling it because those I can do it.
Let me give you some.
I'm not joking. Those are my favorite topics on that math. So I think that I'm in between because I mean I had these very good holiday teachers that, you know, Uncle Gabriel by name. He used to come home to teach us, not just me, but other persons in the compound at that time. So for every time, usually before Miss Titi would teach it in the class, I already know it. Exactly. Yeah, so before, that's how good.
You are giving me the vibe of a parent that would tell their children, I was the first in my school.
Hey, that's my papa.
JSS1 to
that's
SS3.
My dad. So for every time, we're always on our toes to ensure that we know it.
You know, but back to what I was saying really about learning, because it's malpractice that brought about this very long shalaye that we just said right now. But the whole point is that I'm going to go back to what I said. We need to start glorifying learning more than results. Because when we do so, we're even going to get the two. We'll get the result and the learning. Rather than just focusing on result. Because just being result frenzy is what is causing people to go any length to cheat.
I agree.
There was a time where, sometimes when I'm writing exams, I'm going back to the university and I see some people coming boldly into the hall with some, how they call them, was it microchips or something? Like, hey, don't you have the fear of God in that sense? I'm like, why? But you don't know this thing. Because we've also taught people and made people feel like failure is not accepted.
Yeah.
But if parents can start letting their children know that if you are going to repeat, if repeating this class is what will make you know it, maybe you should. Right. But they're in a household where your sister did not repeat. Carry you. There's double problem. Your sister did not repeat. Nobody repeat. No carryover. I understand that it's quite embarrassing and it's not something that people should glorify. Well, it can be because you're still going to look at the whole social construct of things and how sociology works. Imagine starting a level with someone and you're not completing. There's going to always be that inferiority complex and esteem issue. It's there. But it can be reduced if we understand that failure is just part of life. It's very hard to really digest, but we should start helping children. Like, oh, you don't know this, don't worry, we're going to take it again. Do you understand? I think I'm going to applaud my dad for that, because for my first one, I had a D7 in maths. I'm so sorry, I've never known maths. And you know, my dad said to me, all of my friends had gotten admission into Uniben, Unilag, and I think one went to Unizik or so. So because of that failure I had in maths, I couldn't proceed to even, go to Unilag as I wanted for English then. So my dad said, oh, don't worry, you write another one and you pass it. Though my mom, I know she'll say, you don't like me, but I love you, mother. She's like, why you self no get B or something for that? I'm like, calm down, I don't know the math, I don't know it. But I had to do an extra in that sense to write another exam. And I think I was just lucky to have a C in the maths. To tell you how much I really didn't know maths. Do you understand? But I still gave it another trial. I didn't cheat. I gave it another trial, and I had the C that at least got me to this school. Do you understand?
Yes,
so I feel like parents should be okay with their children failing. Failure is not a bad thing. We all fail in life at different points. Your own failure can look like a D or an E or an F. Somebody's failure can be in their family. So in this life that we're in, we've all had our times that we failed. So I'm thinking that this exam malpractice thing, it goes deeper than just saying students come with microchips into the classroom. It's more of a mindset thing.
Yes.
You're glorifying results. You just want to be the best. You want to retain a particular image that nobody forced you to create. Do you understand? So I think that this really goes down to a lot of things. Even teachers. Some teachers,
most of the time, teachers are the ones even aiding it.
They ought not to be biased. Yes, I know there's the point of you want to make a good example of the persons that are doing so. When like, look at it, is it not your mates? Does it?
You see, it's the words that are used to. Because I remember when I was teaching, even when I had the best of students, for every time I'm, using them as example, I'm saying you can be better than Bashar. Bashar don't do this one today, but you can be better. You can be better. Let's do it this way. No, it is not comparing.
It's we spoke about this.
It is not comparing.
There's two kinds of comparison. So it's an upward comparison.
Well, hello, psychology.
It's still comparison, upward, downward. Focus on the child. The child's journey is different. There's no Bashar or Adaize somewhere.
I just feel like
just you as a person. Let's focus on this and let you pass it. Not about you can be better than him or you are even better than this one.
Whatever works.
That's what I really believe, and this conversation really is creating more conversation. So maybe one of these days we'll open it up much more.
Right.
As we round off this conversation, one thing is clear: education in Nigeria is at a crossroad. The new UTME benchmark and age restrictions, we didn't even talk about it, may be an attempt to reform, right? But reform without context can easily become exclusion. So for every student who will rise to meet these new standards, there's another who might be left behind, not for lack of ability, but because of a system that hasn't fully considered their starting points. And this is where we wrap up our show this morning. I'm sure we've inspired you, we've made you think about certain things, and tomorrow we're going to have more interesting topics to explore here, so you don't want to miss any of our segments. Join us again 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Ray's Breakfast. Have a great day ahead.